Good evening. We're going to call the meeting back into session. This is the regular meeting of the City of Oregon City City Commission. And I'm very proud and happy to be here tonight on the 15th of October, 2025. We'd like to convene the meeting and have the roll call, please.
Commissioner Wilson.
Here.
Commissioner Smith.
Here.
Commissioner Marl.
Here.
Commissioner Mitchell.
Here.
Mayor McGriff.
Present. Would you please, if you can, stand and let's have the flag salute, please. If you are unable, it's just fine. We do what we can. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Apparently not if you're a protester. All right. Tonight, it is my privilege to read a proclamation involving the Oregon City West Linn Rivalry Day. And I'm a little more into it this year than I was last year because, let's face it, we know who the better city is.
Right.
If I may say for the record.
We didn't know that before.
Well, we all knew it, but I'm
Yeah.
now saying it publicly for everybody to hear, including all those people over in West Linn.
No, it's on the record. Yeah.
That's right, it's on the record. I'm throwing down the glove. I could say, take that, Rory. So there you go. So whereas the cities of Oregon City and West Linn wish to recognize the efforts of their community members to create and maintain a positive family environment where children can learn the value of constructive competition. And whereas the cities of Oregon City and West Linn value tradition and history as essential parts of their communities, and whereas Oregon City High School and West Linn High School, formerly known as Union High School, have competed valiantly in the sport of football continuously since 1921, except for the pandemic of 2020. And whereas on October 31st, 2025, the teams representing these schools will renew their annual rivalry for the 105th time. I thought they were not playing on Halloween.
Halloween?
Yeah, 31st is Halloween. I thought it was going to be the day before. Anyway. And whereas the longest continually played rivalry west of the Mississippi and therefore worthy of recognition, and whereas the City Commission of Oregon City desires that the Pioneers again defeat the Lions, and the City Council of West Linn desires that the Lions again beat the Pioneers. Now, therefore, we, the City Commission of Oregon City and the City Council of West Linn hereby recognize and command, wow, that's pretty heavy, all community members who have participated in this annual Gridiron Classic and supports the effort of the current teams by proclaiming October 31st, 2025 as Oregon City West Linn Rivalry Day. And we recommend in the spirit of the day that all community members please wear the appropriate clothing. And everybody knows what our appropriate clothing is. Red and black, correct?
No.
What is it?
Red and white.
Oh, red and white. Okay, well, last year I wore red, black, and white.
That's acceptable.
Okay, thank you. May I say for the record that those are my high school colors, and that's what I was wearing. We further recommend in the spirit of the day that we refrain from crossing the river unless business requires until game time. And I will sign this as the mayor of the city of Oregon City. And hopefully, Mayor Pioslawski will sign this as the mayor of West Linn. Anyway, so that is our proclamation. And may I say for the record, go Pioneers.
And also for the record, it's commend, not command, in the proclamation.
Well, the city of West Linn got upset when I was across the river on game day, and I said, I'm sorry, it's just the way it is. West Linn does not tell me what to do. All right, so let's move on with the rest of our agenda now that we've gotten the rivalry insults out of the way here. By the way, there is the usual breakfast that's being put on by our dear friends at the Oregon City Optimist Club, which I will valiantly make an appearance at some ungodly hour in the morning. All right, so Tonight on our agenda, we have item number 4. Betty, you have something you need to address the commission at. Please come forward and tell us what you're thinking. We would most appreciate it. Well, what you're thinking with regard to your item, we can have that conversation over some coffee at the Hive.
Thank you.
That's your invitation.
Betty Mum, Oregon City. So tonight when I was at the work session with you guys talking about the caring place, I think the mayor listed off different organizations that the city has put people at or the police were at and had to be called to the Father's Heart. Father's Heart, or the caring place people are looking for money. So is there a way that you can formulate the hours that the city of Oregon City has spent on cases or issues in that area and give it to the caring place people? And there's your monetary value. I just, think outside the box sometimes.
That's the suggestion that I said, if we added up all the things that we are
Yes.
contributing to, so I asked staff to take a guesstimate at what that is.
And what'd they say?
Well, we have to come back.
Okay,
Yes,
okay.
they're going to come back with that
Okay,
information.
thank you. But that was my only comment. That wasn't bad, was it?
Because I think it's a lot more than we think it is.
I think you're right, because it's been down there since,
13 years.
yeah, so I think that number's gonna be a lot bigger. And then they can go to the other cities and say, well, City of Oregon City has donated blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
So Annie up, Lake Oswego.
I will certainly
Snickering
mention it
at
to Mayor
me.
Buck the next time I see him, as well as my other mayors in the Metropolitan Mayors Consortium.
See, that was a nice comment.
Thank you. And I'll see you for coffee later.
Just get a little bit of clarification, because that was not something that I walked out of that work session with.
I asked the question, but it wasn't a directive. It was just like, I wonder what it would be if we added
Okay.
up all. And I said, I bet staff could take a good educated guess about what we have.
Well, I think when we had these discussions quite a while back about when we were going through the permit discussions around Father's Heart, when the laws changed around citing, I think one of the things we struggled with on putting a number on it was we have numerous contacts, and how do you directly tie that directly to Father's Heart? It's one thing to respond to the facility, but if we respond to an event 3 blocks away, how do you directly tie it? So that's why we never were able to create that number last time around. So I just wanted to clarify, because I did not walk out of there with, trying to put together a financial assessment across the city of police, parks, library, there's one thing to deal with homeless issues, it's another thing to say it's directly tied to Father's Heart. It could be tied to the county, it could be tied to parole, it could be tied to
I'd say,
getting off
yeah.
TriMet.
I'd say if you use the radius that we use for notices of land use action, number of calls that have occurred within that, I can tell you it's probably, based on my experience over the last 13 years, those would be directly related. Barclay Park, 12th Street.
Where's the rest of the commission at on this? I need some direction.
I have to ask the question, what do we hope to get out of this?
Well, I think the question's been asked. We know we're spending dollars on trying to understand how we mitigate this issue.
But so we feel good about ourselves?
No, I'm not saying we feel good about ourselves. I'm just saying we would get some. Okay, so you don't see any purpose to it. Okay.
I would not want to see staff spend the time on that personally.
I'm with Commissioner Mitchell. Yeah, I agree.
Thank you.
All right. right, is there anything on the consent agenda that people have concerns about, or do we have a motion?
Mayor, we do have
Oh.
item 5 presentation.
Oh, sorry. I skipped right over that. Okay, sorry. We have item number 5. We have the Northwest Accreditation Alliance Re-accreditation Award presentation to the Oregon City Police Department. And I'm turning this over to Chief Davis.
Thank you, Mayor, Commission. Tonight, it's an honor to be receiving this award. I'm going to give a little background about the accreditation and the staff report. Then once Scott gets done, Scott Hayes, I'd just like to recognize some key staff. So the Northwest Accreditation Alliance program was established to assist law enforcement and communication agencies in establishing and maintaining standards that represent current professional practices. Northwest Accreditation Alliance standards support the continued improvement of law enforcement services, demonstrate recognized best practices, promote agency accountability and transparency, and enhance management operations. The Oregon City Police Department joined the Northwest Accreditation Alliance in March of 2004. If I'm not mistaken, we're the first law enforcement agency in Clackamas County to reach accreditation. And this will be our 7th accreditation awards, and re-accreditation occurs every 3 years. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Scott Hayes.
Before you do that, if you could just give us a little more background. I did a little Googling, but I don't know if the public does. So this organization you said was founded in?
I don't know when the Accreditation Alliance was founded. I know we got our first accreditation in 2004.
In 2004,
Yes.
Okay.
And Scott might be able to talk more about it. I know for what we do, we have about 100 or so standards that we have to meet each and every year. So I'll turn that over to Scott Hayes, who's the director.
Okay.
2002 is when the Oregon Association was formed. But I want to make sure you can hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you. Okay, just say your name and your organization again for the record, please.
Absolutely. I'll do that in my opening statement. So good evening, Madam Mayor and Commissioners and members of the community. My name is Scott Hayes. I'm the Executive Director for the Northwest Accreditation Alliance. I appreciate the opportunity to address the council and present the Oregon City Police Department with its 7th award of accreditation under the leadership of Chief Davis. Law enforcement is experiencing a changing society with increased demands for police accountability and transparency. As in our past, our profession must face these challenges and work with our community to address their concerns. Accreditation is one step towards building community trust and the legitimacy of our profession. The Northwest Accreditation Alliance was formed under the direction of the Oregon Association of Chiefs of Police, the Oregon State Sheriff's Association, and the Association of Public Safety Communications Officials. And we provide accreditation services for 115 law enforcement and communication centers. Our goals are straightforward: to support the continued improvement of law enforcement services, to establish best practice through professional standards, to promote the agency's accountability and transparency, and to enhance operational management. For the Oregon City Police Department to become accredited, it had to adhere to 110 law enforcement standards. Compliance is generally in the form of policies and procedures and adherence to Oregon revised statute, Oregon administrative rules, and city policy. Our standards are established through the best practice nationally and through changes in federal and Oregon law. In addition to each of the 110 standards, the agency must also demonstrate proof of compliance, ensuring that it follows established practices and best practice. Re-accreditation then occurs every 3 years. This is truly a monumental step for any agency to be evaluated by an outside independent organization and have its policies and procedures scrutinized. I'm aware that several staff members were involved in the process, but I would like to acknowledge the efforts of Patty Stewart, the agency's accreditation manager, who worked diligently to prepare the agency for their review. So Chief Davis and City Council or City Commissioners, on behalf of the Northwest Accreditation Alliance and its Board of Directors, I would congratulate you on receiving your 7th award of accreditation.
So was our first one?
2004.
And that was, who's our,
Chief Mike Conrad.
Conrad, okay.
Yeah.
Trying to
We've
get,
done it every 3
trying to
years.
remember the sequence.
Yeah. Thanks, Scott Hayes. This is a significant achievement for our department and all the men and women who are here at the Oregon City Police Department and our code enforcement. The award, as mentioned, is a commitment to public safety excellence. We take that very serious, high standards and the best professional practices to serve and protect our community. There's a lot of key staff that play a role in this. Like I said, every men and women that are out there each and every day. But there's some very key staff that have to do a lot more to make sure that we meet these standards. So our records department, and specifically Jessica Mott, they maintain all of our police records. They provide all the necessary standards that Patty needs, and they work hard to maintain our high standards. Property and evidence technician Lacey Snelson, she's critical in maintaining our property room and evidence. And if you've ever seen our property room, it's very meticulous, and she maintains our property room at the highest standards. Training Sergeant Jason Lemons, he maintains all of our department's training, which is very significant. You've probably seen that in some of the yearly reports that I present. And he keeps our policies up to date with any and all changes in legislation and best practices. Both captains, Dave Edwins and Joseph Pagano, providing the excellent and exceptional leadership for our department. They maintain our department to the highest standards and doing all of their end of the year reports that are necessary for accreditation and to maintain our policies. And finally, our administrative assistant, Patty Stewart. She's also our accreditation manager. This was her first full 3-year cycle that she did. She previously helped out, but she came in midway, and so she had to learn what to do. As Scott Hayes said, that there's over 100 standards that we have to maintain. She makes sure that we're always staying up to date. We're completing everything that we need to do, reminding us. She's very detail-oriented. And then she puts everything together and prepares our agency. It's very labor intensive. It's not something you could do just in weeks before, right? She does this. We've already just closed out this cycle, and we're already starting our 2025, our next 3-year cycle, because it's so labor intensive. We couldn't do it without her exceptional work, and so I'm grateful for Patty Stewart. Yeah, thanks. I'm proud of all the men and women who work for us and everything they do each and every day. They maintain our highest standards and make sure we have a safe and livable community. This is more than just an award, and it's an honor to receive this tonight, so thank you.
So may I ask some questions?
Absolutely.
So what was happening before 2001 when this organization was formed? What was there something else that this replaced, or so what was the problem they were trying to solve by creating this agency?
I think they were trying to make sure that police departments maintain a high level of standard, right? So every police department has policies and procedures, and prior to 2002 when they started, anyone could have anything, and they still can. However, they look at best practices, they look at national standards, they look at state standards, and they push police departments to maintain the highest level of standards there are within policies, procedures, and just everything we do every day. So that's kind of what this organization does. And it's a significant accomplishment. Any agency that tries to get accredited, it's a several-year process to make sure you get everything in line and make sure you have it. And it's a several-year process, and we have to maintain that. And so I'm very proud that we've done that since 2004, every cycle, and this is our 7th award.
It's always interesting to know where, something came from, because, there was a need, plus there was a desire for everybody to be kind of on the same plate, I suspect. So that it doesn't matter if it's Oregon City or it's Brookings, it's all the same standards.
Correct. Within reason, some of them have different size and stuff like that.
But everybody maintains the same level of excellence,
Correct.
Which is, it's good to know. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Again, Oregon City, #1. What can I say? And that's you have the award there on the table?
Yes, I'll have Betty hold it up. So it's a very nice award. And again, it's to everyone in our department and all the hard work that they do. So
I'll make sure that gets in the Trail News.
perfect.
Right. Well, as usual, congratulations to our Oregon City Police Department and all of their excellent work that they do every day, and everybody that's behind the scenes. Maybe they're not out on the street, but People like Patty Stewart are there to make sure that the support is there and that we are doing everything we can to maintain a certain level of excellence, and your work is not gone unnoticed. Thank you. Right. Item 7, A through F. Is there a motion?
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and second.
Commissioner Wilson,
Aye.
Commissioner Smith,
Aye.
Commissioner Marl,
Aye.
Commissioner Mitchell,
Aye.
Mayor McGriff.
Aye.
Motion passes.
It'll be very exciting to see the Heritage Tree plaque at 1216 Jackson Street. A few more of those in town. Right, we do not have any public hearings tonight, but we do have some items for general business. And the first item of general business is looking at the right-of-way obstruction located adjacent to 19534 Sebastian Way. That's our Public Works Director. And we need the clicker, please.
All right, good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Dana Webb, Public Works Director. I'm here this evening to present to you a request for a permanent right-of-way obstruction of a fence at 19534 Sebastian Way. The current owner of the property purchased the property in 2003, and at that time, the fence existed.
Dana, can you move the mic over so it's directly in front of your view? Thank you.
That fence existed in that location until 2020, when it was requested to be removed for the Malala Avenue Streetscape project. As part of that project, we were widening the sidewalk and extending a water line within that public right-of-way. And so for those of you who aren't familiar with the area, years ago, Malala Avenue actually ran kind of into the alignment of 213. And when they built 213, they realigned Malala Avenue and kind of curved it over so it came in at a 90. So a large right-of-way exists in that area. And then in August of 2025, Public Works received a call that the fence was being reinstalled. And so we went out to investigate the reinstallation of the fence. So this map was provided by the applicant. You can see on this, the property in question is outlined in kind of a yellow highlight. The blue lines on this map are existing water lines, and you will see that within that wide swath of right-of-way, behind their back fence and before the kind of the white area, my next image will give you an aerial that'll give a little more context. There are 2 parallel water lines in part of that backyard, and then to the south, there's a single water line. That second water line will begin design work as part of our WIFIA transmission main phase 3 here in the upcoming year. And so that water line will extend down the page to the south. And so they've provided this map, which does have a red line, which is, I think, a little hard to see on this screen, but that is their proposed fence location line. So this is an aerial photo. So the yellow outline is their current property. That green area between the yellow line and the back of sidewalk is that right-of-way, and it extends all the way down and connects back in to Sebastian Way. Within that right-of-way is the blue water lines. Those green lines are our sanitary sewer system. And then what's a little tough to see on this is the overhead PGE and communication lines that run directly adjacent to that back property line. This is a street view of the area in 2024 after the completion of the project. And then this is a street view in 2018 of the fence prior to the project. So tonight, staff is presenting this as a recommendation for denial. The fence obstruction in the right-of-way does not provide a public benefit. It presents potential sight line obstruction for vehicles exiting off of Sebastian Way onto Malala Avenue, and it creates maintenance issues in that area, in that right-of-way. I'm going to pop back real quick. Each of those kind of circles with the X on it on top of the blue line, those are valves. So that is how we control our water system if we need to shut something down in the event of a water line break. The large green circles are manholes where we would access our sewer system for cleanings. And so fencing that area off becomes difficult to maintain that without, contacting a property owner to access our assets within their fenced yard. Again, because of those existing and our proposed future water line that'll be in design and construction within the next, it'll start design in the next year and it'll be under construction following that design. The city sewer and the overhead utilities staff would recommend a denial. So tonight, your options are to approve the obstruction, approve it with amendments, or deny the obstruction.
Are there any questions of staff? I am trying to remember when that subdivision was platted. Was that during your time, Tony, or was that during my time? The reason I'm asking is I have when I saw it, I had some recollection of that particular development. Primarily because I remembered the streets.
Land's End subdivision was recorded February 24th, 1999.
Okay, I see that the adjacent property owner is interested in having something to say. Do you want to come up? You'll have 3 minutes. Just give your name and city of residence for the record, that's all. You don't have your glasses? Oh, you have your glasses, okay.
And just go ahead and press
Say
the
we don't
little
have any
button.
extra
It'll go
glasses,
green.
so.
Gotcha. All right, good evening, Mayor McGrath, commissioners, commission, city staff. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak with you. I'm Stephen Scott Caverhill, a resident of at 19534 Sebastian Way.
Can you move that a little closer to you?
Sure.
There you go, thank you.
I'm here to request your approval for Resolution 25-32 for a revocable right-of-way permit to restore a 6-foot cedar privacy fence next to my property. A little background, I bought the home in 2007, inheriting the cedar fence built around 2003, which stood 1 foot behind the sidewalk for 17 years without causing safety, visibility, or utility issues. In 2020, I removed the fence at the city's request for the Malala Avenue streetscape project based on Public Works. With assurances from Mr. Eric Hand that I could rebuild the fence afterwards in August of 2025, I began reinstalling the fence, but paused after learning that the OCMC 12.04.12 code requires your approval. I appreciate the staff's focus on safety and utility access, and I'd like to address their concerns directly. visibly. The fence operated safely for 17 years. I'll ensure compliance with Oregon City Municipal Code 10.32, site distance and standards, adjusting the design and height near concerns to maintain clear sight lines. As for the utilities, there's an 18-inch water line that runs nearby with a future extensions planned. As this permit is revocable, I'll sign a hold harmless agreement, provide full access, and install removable panels to ensure utility crews face no delays. I accept that the fence's potential removal may be required. However, I will say this: all of the utilities are outside of the fence. I changed the design of the fence so that everything was accessible outside of the fence. The manhole covers that she spoke of, all of that is outside the fence, and I planned on having that landscape to look nice. Currently, if you looked at the pit, it doesn't look nice. They maintain a little bit of the property above the sidewalks, but they don't maintain anything behind it, and it just looked terrible. So for public benefit and fairness, the fence restores my family's privacy without obstructing sidewalks or traffic. Matching its prior harmless presence, I acted in good faith in 2020, and approving this permit honors that cooperation while reflecting Oregon City's support for residents who work with public projects. A personal impact. Without the fence, my home faces Malala Avenue traffic with an 8-foot slope directing headlights into my living room, bedrooms, causing light and noise intrusion. The fence ensures privacy, safety for my family and pets, aligns with the neighborhood's aesthetic. I've also invested $6,800 in non-refundable cedar wood, relying on the city's earlier assurance. I'm simply asking to restore a fence that stood safely for 17 years, and I'm committed to meeting the conditions to protect the visibility and utility access. I respect and urge you to approve this resolution number 25-32. Thank you for your time and dedication to our community, and I trust your judgment.
So before you go, I have to ask the dumb question.
Please.
When you bought the piece of property, you were not aware of where your property lines were?
No, I was very aware. In fact, I have a letter from the city, or the Oregon City Community, or Oregon Community College, that they owned the property at the time, and they gave the previous owner of the house, which is a friend of mine, full access to the fence, or full access to that property, which he put the fence up, and they agreed with at that time.
Is that true?
I can't speak to the letter, but the city took jurisdiction of the roadway from ODOT, and so there's not been a time that I'm aware of that the community college was in ownership of that right-of-way. They do own the vacant parcel at the corner of Malala and 213.
Right. I knew that they owned that, but I did not believe that they owned that piece of property.
Yeah, like I said, I bought the house.
Yeah. So I always tell my
2007.
friends, please read your deeds.
Yeah, no, I'm very familiar with my property lines.
Yeah.
I will say, though, with the street being up so high and the slope that goes down in the back of the yard, the fence that we have up, the temporary fence that we put up, is a 6-foot cedar fence, which from just sitting on our back patio, we see everything that happens on the street. And that wasn't the way it was for the entire time that we
Yeah, I
lived in
understand
the
that. But that's where your property lines are.
No, I'm familiar with that, yes.
And that's how the house was built. You know, and I'm not unsympathetic, but I have a concern about somebody taking possession of city property, and you can't really do adverse possession against a jurisdiction. My sympathies are with you, but I can't support public property being used for private use in this particular situation. I'm just really sorry.
I'll keep my back fence up. Would like to just have the fence for privacy.
Yeah, well, I think there may be another way you can have privacy without being on that property.
Can I build a taller fence than 6 foot in the city of Oregon?
You'll have to talk to planning about that.
I've looked at the law. I mean, it doesn't allow me to.
You can talk to the planning department, community development department. She was here, but she's not here now, so. Any other comments, gentlemen? Nope. Okay, thank you. Thank you, staff. Dana? Comments, motion? Don't all speak up at once.
I can't support fencing off public right of way.
Adam?
Yeah, it makes me think a lot of the discussions we've had about the promenade and everything that I've said about coming into this position and realizing just how much we do as a local government and telling people what they can and cannot do with their private property. But that's not what we're dealing with here because it's not their property. And so that's where I have the problem is allowing that to be, like Commissioner Mitchell said, used for private purposes.
Thank you. I, Commissioner Morrow, have the same thoughts, you know, in listening to the presentation, just thinking about the discussions we've had on the promenade. While sympathetic to the privacy issue, again, can't support private use of public property.
Commissioner Smith?
I guess I agree. I agree.
I think, you know, since our, excuse me, our esteemed city manager has, he did have a possible remedy with the fact that, you know, we do, our code, I believe, says that the highest offense can be is 6 feet. It would depend on where that additional height would be if we were to make an exception or a variance or whatever we'd have to do for that. But you know, again, I am not unsympathetic. I get concerned. You get a lot of paperwork when you're buying a piece of property, and people don't always look at everything very carefully, and there's a lot of assumptions that are made. Well, the fence is there, so that must be where the property line is, and that is generally, I would say, 99% not the case in most pieces of property. And I should know because I surveyed my property at my expense because there was an issue about where the property line was, and I was building something, and I wanted to make absolutely sure that I was not encroaching on my neighbor's property or where that property line needed to be. So it's one of those things where there are some unintended consequences when the transaction occurred, and unfortunately he was told that the college owned it and it was okay to put it there when I was, like I said, I was pretty sure the college did not own that piece of property. And so I think we need a motion. Oh, please.
Could we have some guidance as to what the variance process might look like if we were to allow a fence? Because I sympathize with the situation he finds himself in and the fact that he already has the materials. So if there's an opportunity to build taller than that, then...
Without a side obstruction issue or any of that stuff.
Right.
Yeah. I go by there a lot, and it always just looked like that does not look right. It's because it's the planner part of me that's like, looks at something and goes, we would not allow for that. He's looking it up. Is the motion dependent upon getting this answer?
Well, I'm just curious because I want to make sure that there's a solution in addition to us making our decision.
Okay. I used to know the variance by heart, but I don't anymore because we made some changes to it.
So is the state.
Well, this involved structures and stuff, not, I mean, like fences and things like that sort. I just had a friend buy a piece of property and I said, please have your lawyer read everything. Or you read it. Don't assume. Are we going to be, you said the pictures you showed over to, I mean, I went by there on my way to Winco and some of the weeds have been cut down, but obviously it needs a little haircut. But I know we're going to come back and tear it up shortly, but we could still keep the weeds down, I think.
And when is that Withia project slated to happen where it would have to come up anyway?
Design is anticipated to start within this fiscal year, so between now and June 30th. It's a pretty basic project, so I would imagine 12 months of design, and then we would be into construction.
Okay, thank you.
Can you play the Jeopardy music?
I guess, I don't like doing this on the fly.
We understand.
I think because, there are certain things you cannot request a variance from.
Right.
Right? I think we'd have to look in to see, how we go about a fence variance. We do identify a minor variance, which are type 2 staff level decisions. A fence variance is not that, so that means it would go to the Planning Commission as a type 3 land use hearing, appealable to the City Commission. I think what we've always struggled with on variances is the justification, the grounds, the criteria. That the variance
created difficulty.
That the variance from the requirement is not likely to cause substantial damage to adjacent property or reducing air, light access, necessary quality of life. That the request is the minimum variance that would be alleviate the hardship. Granting the variance will equal or exceed the purpose of the regulation to be modified. Not sure there. Any impacts resulting from the adjustment are mitigated. No practical alternatives have been identified which would accomplish the same purpose and not require a variance. And the variance of affordance of the comps plan and the intent. There's a lot of discretion in those and how they're applied. So there is a process. That outcome is obviously unknowable. And I say that wanting to clarify, I need to talk with Carrie and Kelly a little bit, because you can't do a variance of a use.
Right.
The code says, no variance shall be granted to allow the use of property for a purpose not authorized within the zone. And so, yes, fences are allowed in the zone, but they're only allowed to be 8 feet tall. So is that a use or not? So
You said 8?
6.
Oh, sorry, 6.
You said, okay, well, that covers that if it's convenient. But yeah, I thought it said 6.
It's 6.
Well, I think that's.
But, I think
Needs
the
to
other.
go talk to one of the planners.
So I think, given that information, I'm going to go ahead and make a motion to deny Resolution 25-32.
Second.
Commissioner Wilson.
I had an injection in my knee today.
Aye.
Commissioner Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Morrow.
Aye.
Commissioner Mitchell.
Aye.
Mayor McGriff.
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right, we have, thank you very much, and please get in touch with the planning department. So item B is consideration of a temporary removing the off-leash dog area designation at Barclay Park. Mr. Archer, sir.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. Scott Archer, Parks and Recreation Director. So before you is an item that is recommendation from your Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee, PRAC. At their last meeting, which was on September 25th, they passed a motion to recommend to Commission to consider temporarily pausing the off-leash dog area, designated off-leash dog area at Barclay Park. Barclay Park is the small neighborhood park on 12th and John Adams. So a little bit of background. Back in 2015, Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee actually, kind of their own volition, initiated a program where at that time the city did not have any dog parks, any formal dog parks. And that was becoming a need or a want from the community while we were looking to the future to develop potential dog park sites. We now have one at Tyrone S. Woods, and we're looking at another one at Wesley Linn in the next year. But at that time, there weren't any formal areas, so with that need, the PRAC spent some time evaluating potential areas across the city and recommended to the Commission a kind of a pilot project of designating off-leash areas within existing parks where dogs could run legally without being leashed. And the idea was these are areas that were intended to be less impactful to park users or neighbors or what have you. And so those sites that were designated, and it went to the Commission and was approved at that time, those sites were Park Place Park, Barclay Park, and Wesley Linn. So that was intended at the time to be, I think it was, my recollection, I was with the city then, was near the end of my first tenure, was intended to be a one-year pilot project, and then it would be reconsidered or kind of reviewed. I know that in the time since then and now, looking back at records, there was some discussion. I think it might have been discussed with Commission, but there was no formal action to repeal the program. It's just sort of continued. And so for the most part, I would say it has been a fairly successful, pretty well-received program, mostly at Wesley Linn Park, where I think that really kind of became one of the more well-used off-leash areas in the city. That actually has led to us planning for the formal fenced dog park that we're creating. We're actually finishing the design right now, and we're going to be developing and hopefully completing in the year 2026 with some grant-supported funding. So, and then at Park Place Park, I think anecdotally, we haven't heard a lot, which would probably say it's either not that well used or we certainly aren't having any problems or conflicts. With Barclay Park, more recently, we received some feedback that there were concerns from park neighbors and residents of off-leash dogs not being controlled by owners and sort of just being allowed to run around the park and not being paid attention to. The concerns were brought forward, and because it was a PRAC-initiated program, we brought it back to them, and that was at their September meeting. PRAC's discussion was that they determined that they would like to recommend, and again, because PRAC recommended it initially, Commission approved it. This is the process that we're following again, that it be a temporary pause on the off-leash area at Barclay Park. The temporary being undefined by PRAC. What the idea with that term was, it allows staff and the committee to maybe evaluate potential other sites to move this particular site or that area maybe within that part of town, or just consider the program generally. So they're kind of, it's the temporary is intentionally undefined, and so with your for your consideration, I think what you've got really are probably three options or more if you'd like. Consider a temporary pause with an indefinite time period, again, just undefined, and allow that to be for now. You could do a temporary pause with a time length to be determined if you wanted to establish that and say we want to make it, we want to make a final decision by this time. Or you could just not support the recommendation, not proceed with pausing the off-leash area, and that would just leave it as is. And so that's what's before you. Happy to help answer additional questions that you might have.
Any comments? Anyway, I wanted to make a recommendation that we have a definite time period just so we can see what's been going on with there. I've received a lot of concerns and complaints, which is exactly what Scott said regarding kind of dogs just running amok and coming up to people who have their dogs and causing problems, plus the cleanup issues. So I would recommend that we monitor this and come back and next September, because it's going to get really rainy. Not a lot of people are going to be out letting their dogs wander around, but who knows? So that there can be some relief for the neighbors that do have pets that keep them on the leash. And again, this was supposed to be temporary, and then it just never got looked at again. But I think there's going to be sort of a cause and effect. And some of the dogs that have been running, I would say loose, have occupants that are in Barclay Park in the woods, and that may be part of the problem.
On my morning drive, I'm seeing lots of dogs on a regular basis at Ladderette Park unleashed as well.
Yes, and they're not supposed to even be in there unleashed.
Absolutely. So I know it's, nearby Barclay Park too, but
Is Ladderette Park signed at all that says
that's what I was going to
no
ask. I
dogs?
don't know if all of our parks have signage for rules.
I know we weren't, it was not our intent that dogs would be running
Right.
loose in
I
Ladderette
don't
Park.
remember seeing.
I'm not sure about Ladderette specifically. What I can tell you is this has been a discussion in our staff team recently that we are looking to create some standardized signage for park rules, and those parks that don't have signage about rules are going to be in the near future. But I don't know specifically about Ladderette, but there are a number of our parks that we
I've seen that too, and I said dogs are not allowed. You can have your dog with you, but they're not going to be roaming. They shouldn't be off leash in Ladderette Park. Sir.
I was on PRAC in 2015 when this was put in place. And I think it was put in as a test, and my recollection is there was a discussion, we would look at it in a year, with the intention that it would be easier to undo if it was a test program than if it was, we're going to do this and it doesn't turn out good. But I think the fact that it's 10 years later and hasn't caused problems speaks to the fact that there isn't a problem. And I'm going to say something I have to say. I watched the PRAC meeting, and the reason PRAC made this recommendation is because the mayor took it upon herself to spend 20 to 25 minutes of their meeting explaining to them why they needed to do this.
Yeah, I did.
And I object to that process. That is not the role of the mayor. That's the reason we have a city manager and a staff.
I was not there speaking as the mayor. I was there speaking on behalf of two residents.
Everybody in the room knew you were the mayor.
Well, I agree, but I told them that I was not there speaking as the mayor, Mike. When I went up, I said, I'm not speaking as the mayor. This is something that was brought to my attention at the neighborhood meeting, and I said that I would go to PRAC, and that one of the people that needed to come had a family emergency and could not come, and asked me to come. So I apologize if you misunderstood what was going on.
I didn't misunderstand anything. I know how to watch a video and see what
I
happened.
understand you know how to watch video. I was not there speaking as the mayor. And I want to make it very clear to you that I was not.
I'm not going to support this, and the reason I'm not going to support it is our staff hasn't had an opportunity to investigate what other alternatives might be, and to come up with a plan to study what's happened there and how we can fix it. And so I'm not going to support a pause. More as a complaint about the process than whether or not the pause is a good idea.
I would be curious to know, the staff report here mentions that staff have received feedback from residents and park neighbors. So I'm just curious to the quantity of complaints that maybe the city's received specifically about this park versus the others that had the same, I guess, temporary, quote unquote.
Yeah, and I want to be specific and say that this is more recent feedback, so I can't speak for the last, however many years, so feedback over time. I'm not aware of much feedback other than just recently about Barclay Park. I think much of that feedback was relayed to us from Mayor McGriff on behalf of the neighborhood, as I understand it. We did hear from, I think, a couple of residents sort of independently as well, but it was the understanding that this was being relayed sort of as a concern of the broader neighborhood, I guess, is the way I could describe that. And that was, again, just more recent. So I'm not speaking for much more than the last maybe 3 months or so, probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
But in terms of the number of complaints that the city's received directly, do you have a ballpark?
Minimal, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I will
We
tell you
did,
this.
we did reach out to code enforcement and asked, and we had 0 code enforcement calls.
They won't call. I will say that every time we've had a shelter advisory committee meeting for the last 2.5 years, it's been brought up. And my recommendation to the members is that you need to call the city, as I tell them for everything, call the city and let them know so that there is a track record. The last shelter advisory committee meeting we had, one of the members said that they had been accosted by a dog who was running loose without the owner. And how we get those comments, we better do something about it. I said, well, you need to go to PRAC and tell them. Because I looked it up and it said it was temporary, but it's been temporary for, well, you said you were on in 2015. But we never followed up to see if it was working or not working or whatever. But it still needs to be investigated and still needs to be looked at. This may not be the right avenue to go about doing it, but it does need to be followed up on.
So I think for me personally, with no code enforcement complaints and minimal complaints to the city, I wouldn't be in support of it at this time.
Oh, and make a motion. Go ahead.
I would prefer, rather than moving forward with this, that we have PRAC just have a general conversation about how this can be updated. I would rather not just focus on one because of minimal complaints that have been made and 0 code enforcement calls. I would rather, since this has been brought to our attention, it's a good reminder that since it was temporary, that it may be time to look at all of it, but I don't like the idea of targeting one of them. And I too heard about the PRAC meeting and have concerns about the process that it took to get us here. I know that we can all say that we're in certain areas as our individual selves, but I really think it's difficult to separate ourselves from our official capacity and not use that as a way to try and unduly influence particular outcomes.
And I did not. Okay, so
Well,
Jim,
not
so do
to,
we want to suspend this and have it go back to PRAC and have them do more work?
if aside from this PRAC meeting, this wouldn't have come to us, I'm assuming. I mean, as the park director, would you have brought this to us minus that meeting happening?
Correct. It's because of the PRAC recommendation.
So not to exaggerate this even more so, but we've had former mayors that have used that exact line, that I'm not the mayor and I was speaking on my own behalf. You're always the mayor. And it doesn't matter whether you say that or not. And I know you mean that or hope you mean that, but it doesn't matter. People still know you're the mayor, and it's one of the reasons I don't go to any neighborhood meetings unless I'm speaking there or being asked by the neighborhood to be there, because everyone knows, so anyway, I would love, and if that means having another, PRAC meeting to have them really discuss it and get input from the neighborhood, that's fine. And I'm not a dog person. But I know there are tons of people in this town that are, and I was, part of that discussion to have this temporary, area to do that. If the temporary areas are a place for people to have their dogs run, that minimizes the dogs running leashless in other parks, then, I'm all for it. And as we know, we are planning forward to, add more dog parks in the future, but it seems to me that maybe that dialogue needs to happen again in another PRAC meeting, and see if the outcome of that meeting is the same or different.
Okay, well, I think you got some direction, so it's going back to PRAC.
We will take it back to PRAC, and I'll also just add, for your awareness, with this conversation happening, I did look into how we've signed those off-leash areas, or how we're administering that, or kind of, enforcing that, if you will. I'm going to work with our parks team to see if we can do maybe a better job of saying this is the specific area within the park. Wesley Linn is essentially solving itself, plus that area was kind of its own standalone part of the park that had little interference with the rest of the park. But Barclay and Park Place have a little more opportunity, I think, for conflict or maybe confusion about where the dog area is. And so we'll make sure, regardless of this decision, I think we maybe can review how we're applying that off-leash area, and we'll make sure that we're doing the best job that we can there.
Mr. Archer, I'm glad to hear you say that, because I did walk through Barclay Park today, and there is a pet waste station, the bag thing, and a trash can, but that's way up at one end, and then the sign is clear down on the other corner. So I think we could do something, and that's one of the things that I think PRAC should look at.
PRAC did mention it at the meeting.
Yeah, is how.
That was the problem, part of the problem.
How and where we sign it, and, yeah.
I have seen in other jurisdictions with unfenced off-leash dog parks and Scott, I'm sure this is probably something you guys would talk about, is essentially like a boundary marker, almost like a four-corner post that says this is the designated area, so it cordons off a component and it gives us the ability, instead of saying the whole park is off-leash, right? It's like, here's the designated area without going through the cost and construction of, a formal fenced area, but it at least sets a boundary, expectations, and something that you can enforce upon. Like I said, I've seen that in other jurisdictions. That's probably something we could talk about, or PRAC could talk. I'm sure there's other things as well, but I think there could be options here.
The one thing that I've noticed, I walked through Barclay Park over the weekend, and people don't, well, again, because where the waste thing is, there's like, you don't want to walk in there because you're going to come across some disposable items that should be in the doggy bags, and it's not very pleasant. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, item C is a second reading of ordinance number 25-1012, vacating an unimproved right-of-way located between 19530 South Central Point Road, Lot 1, Filbert Orchard, plat number 1744, and Tract B, Ed's Orchard, recorded plat number 4503. I don't think there's anything to say about this other than this is the second reading. Is there a motion for a second reading, and then we'll have the attorney read it?
I move to approve the second reading of ordinance number 25-1012.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded.
Ordinance number 25-1012, an ordinance of the City of Oregon City vacating unimproved public right-of-way located between 19530 South Central Point Road, Lot 1, Filbert Orchard, recorded plat number 1744, and Tract B, Ed's Orchard, recorded plat number 4503.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Wilson.
Aye.
Commissioner Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Marl.
Aye.
Commissioner Mitchell.
Aye.
Mayor McGriff.
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right. Are there any communications, Mr. City Manager?
No, not tonight. Thank you.
Communications from the commission? I understand we had an exciting C4 meeting.
The one thing I will say, and I spoke to Mr. Archer about it before the meeting, a PR campaign, if you will, that we need. The voting is open for Metro's Community Choice Park Grants.
Yeah, I did.
There are a number of great Oregon City proposals that were put forth, and a lot of proposals from other cities and limited amount of money. So we need to do whatever we can to rally our citizens to get the vote on 10 different projects. And so we need, with Mr. Lyman's help, to get the word out there.
And maybe
We need to vote.
maybe even highlight the 10 projects, because there were a lot from Milwaukee. I scrolled
There's a
through,
lot,
I
yeah.
scrolled through all of them.
Yeah.
Well, there are more than 10 projects in Oregon City,
Well, I
so
know.
they will
Right.
have to choose
Choose,
among,
yeah,
I
the
think,
10.
14.
Yeah.
But yes, I want to echo that, because I was also going to bring that up, that I really want residents to get involved in this. These are the tax dollars that we've already paid, and bringing them back to our community would be really great. The other thing that I just wanted to talk about was just really quickly, we had our 100th annual League of Oregon Cities Conference. The mayor, myself, Commissioner Mitchell, the city manager was there, as was our former public works director, who was a vendor, which was kind of interesting and fun to see. But it was really good, and I will say that it was probably the most well-kept that I have seen Portland since COVID. And I'm really proud of the way that they have come back from some of their more challenging times. And it's unfortunate the way that it's being painted in the national media outlets, but it was very powerful for all of us when the mayor of Portland spoke, and we all emphasized that as Oregon cities, Portland's success is our success, and how we're going to continue to stand with them as they continue to try and protect their right to govern themselves. And so we had a great time at that conference. I got to moderate a workshop on city budgeting, and so a lot of fun was had.
Yeah, I would echo that. Although I would say, I was disappointed that they did not use the convention center and the convention center hotel, which was built specifically for conventions. The parking at that hotel was a little dicey, but I also went to quite a few sessions. I went to a couple of leadership sessions that were quite interesting, and I'm going to try to sum up some notes. I also, like you, facilitated a session on Oregon sanctuary laws, and talked with had two attorneys who basically specialize in that, and we went over all of the current laws and what applies to the jurisdictions and what doesn't. And of course, it was very timely that we had that. I also helped facilitate, again, the get to know each other mixer that we always have at the league meeting, and Adam was there and several other people. You weren't there, but you should go sometime, but anyway. And then also attended there was a city manager, mayor workshop that Tony couldn't be there because Kelly had just come. So I facilitated my role with the mayor and the city manager of Toledo. And we had some good conversations. It was kind of a, whose job is it? And I will say with all the 10 questions, I got every single one of them right, because I knew what the job of the city manager is supposed to do, and I know what the mayor is supposed to do. So the city manager of Toledo gave me a lot of kudos on that. But the mayor of Toledo has been in office for many, 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 many years. But it just shows to show you that I have learned a lot from Tony, and it was good. They set it up. You would have hated it. It was like a newlywed game. But when we were I wasn't on the panel. I was a participant. But we had breakout sessions when they asked a question. And then the other one that I attended that was I think helpful in terms of just city governance had to do with situations where we're kind of between rocks and hard places. And it was interesting to get the perspective from other cities on how they handle things. The facilitators were really good. And one of the things that was interesting, I forget what Ron's last name was, but he's been a city manager and now does consulting, but he said, one of the things that you will find as an elected official is that it doesn't matter how many facts you give people. One of the statements that he said that we all know to be true, the person will tell you they don't care what the facts are, they just know what they believe. And I said, that was extremely profound. So we can give people all the information, but if they don't want to accept that information, they're going to go with their gut. So anyway, with that, if you gentlemen don't have any objection to adjourning, you want to, don't hold you back. You want to stay? Is that what you're saying, Mike? Okay, so the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.